Something subtle is happening in many lives today. No matter how much you accomplish, a sense of emptiness lingers. On the surface, things may look stable. Work, relationships, a life others might even admire. Yet beneath it all, there is a quiet tension, a feeling that you are not fully aligned with yourself. Something important slips away in the rush of routine, in the weight of expectation. We live like kites, lifted high, yet always tethered by invisible strings. Fear of losing what we have, the need for recognition, the pressure to prove we are moving forward. We keep running, though we're not sure what the race is for. The body is tired, but stopping feels impossible. It is in moments like this that another path appears. Not loud, not frantic, quiet, steady, enduring. Stoicism. A philosophy more than 2,000 years old, yet alive today for those who want clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of exhaustion, depth instead of distraction. It teaches us how to remain steady when the ground shifts, how to return to the center of ourselves when life scatters us, how to remember the part of us that remains whole. The journey is not about becoming someone else, but about returning to what has always been within. 7 lessons form this path. Each is a mirror, a reminder, a call back to yourself. And once you begin, you may find you no longer wish to go back to the restless chase. So we begin with the first, the chase that keeps you trapped. Imagine a man who never stops moving forward. Every day, a new target, a higher title, a bigger house, a sharper version of himself. He calls it progress. But the more he runs, the heavier the ground beneath him feels. Each success dissolves into another demand. Yesterday's achievement becomes today's starting point. His own ambition, once his tool, has become his master. Isn't that how it often feels in our world? Where every accomplishment whispers, "Not enough." Where relief lasts only a moment before another race begins. Growth, we call it. But perhaps it is only escape dressed as progress. What would happen if we paused? Not to abandon effort, but to look closely at where we are running and why. To stand still long enough to hear what the restless mind has been drowning out. That quiet sigh of exhaustion, not from the body, but from the endless need to become. In that pause, something shifts. Perhaps nothing is missing. Perhaps we have simply forgotten to see what is already here. This is the wisdom of Stoicism. It does not ask us to reject action, but to act from the right place. When we move from emptiness, desire controls us. When we act from fullness, we are free. As Epictetus said, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. True freedom does not come from getting more. It comes from no longer being ruled by the hunger for more. Think on this. When you release the obsession with succeeding, the mind clears. When you are no longer afraid of failing, your work becomes lighter, more natural. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you begin to live with honesty. This is the freedom Stoicism points to, not external liberty, but inner independence. A freedom no one can grant you, and no one can take away. But how is such freedom possible in a world that demands more? More speed, more results, more striving. How do you remain steady when everything pulls you outward? When applause tempts you and judgment weighs on you? The answer is not escape. You don't need to abandon your work, retreat into solitude, or walk away from your goals. The change begins quietly, within. It is a shift in the reason behind your actions. Instead of asking, "What will I gain if I do this?" ask, "Am I choosing this, or am I being driven by it?" Try living one day without measuring yourself by productivity. Enter a conversation without the need to impress. Do something meaningful to you, even if no one notices. Those small choices teach more than theory ever can. They reveal a truth. You don't need to keep running to be worthy of yourself. What transforms a life is not one great triumph. It is the discovery that you do not need endless victories to feel whole. And here lies the paradox. The moment you stop trying to become someone, you begin to arrive as yourself. Freedom is not a finish line. It is a way of walking. Each day, free from being chased by your own shadow. And when you grow still enough to stop, you begin to see the next weight you're ready to release. Number 2, non-attachment is rational clarity. The first release is not a person, a dream, or an opportunity. It is the need to know how it all ends. This need binds the mind more than anything else. What looks like careful planning is often just fear in disguise, the fear of uncertainty. We hold on to goals, to identity, to the illusion of control. But the tighter the grip, the less room there is for life to move through us. A closed hand cannot receive light. A closed heart cannot feel its own depth. This is the paradox. The more you try to keep everything fixed, the more fragile life becomes. But when you let go, not recklessly, but with awareness, something shifts. You don't collapse. You rise. For the Stoic, letting go is not passive surrender. It is the rational act of one who sees clearly. You release not because you are powerless, but because you are wise enough not to fight what lies beyond your reach. A decision made by another. A chance that has passed. A future that has not yet arrived. These are not yours to carry. The deeper question is, what am I gripping so tightly just to feel that I matter? If you can answer honestly, you may see that growth often begins not in the chase, but in the stillness that follows when you stop. Perhaps you have been there, loving someone so much that you tried everything to hold them close. And the harder you tried, the further they slipped away. And then one day, worn out from holding on, you release your grip. Not because the love is gone, but because you can no longer force what will not bend. And strangely, in that very moment of letting go, something shifts. The weight lifts. You return to yourself, lighter, freer, no longer distorted by expectation. That moment, however brief, is a living expression of Stoicism, not the suppression of feeling, not withdrawal from life, but self-mastery in the midst of uncertainty. Stoic thought was never about becoming hard. It was about staying awake, able to love, to create, to give fully, without letting the heart be ruled by the outcome. The trap comes when you hinge your worth on a single storyline. They must love me back. This project must succeed. I must be seen. Each of these demands hands your strength to something outside your control. But when you act without clinging, when you love without trying to possess, work without the hunger to prove, give without expecting return, you move with clarity. Lighter, freer, stronger than any tactical strategy could ever make you. In that space, your actions are not driven by fear of failure, but by alignment with who you are. From there, steadiness grows, honesty grows, and you are no longer shattered when life takes a turn you did not plan. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." This is not passivity, it is strength. You do not lose your drive when you release outcomes. You lose only the illusion that life must unfold your way. And when that illusion dissolves, clarity enters. Clarity is not having every answer. It is knowing when to soften, when to allow life to unfold on its own. and life is felt most deeply only when the mind is no longer dragged by the endless question, what happens next? Action becomes pure when it is no longer warped by fear or twisted by expectation. You don't need to begin with something grand. Start small, apply for the job, share the idea, speak the truth you've been holding back. Give yourself fully to the act. But when it's done, remind yourself, this outcome does not define my worth. Then move forward, quietly, simply. Even a single moment like that can change the course of a life. If you felt a pause, a shift, even a single breath of recognition within you, perhaps you are ready for another kind of journey. Not the journey to become someone new, but the journey back to who you already are. There are no shortcuts here, only reminders, perspectives, gentle signals that help you see more clearly what you're holding and what you might be ready to release. Number 3, real freedom comes from within. Often the emptiness we feel is not because something is missing, but because everything remains unchanged, routine, predictable. The job, the relationships, the roles we move through. So often they require little thought. And yet, in the space between two ordinary moments, there arrives a silence, a pause, an open gap that unsettles us. We name it loneliness, disorientation, or being lost in our own lives. But through the lens of Stoic philosophy, that emptiness is not always a threat. It can be the first doorway to freedom. What we fear most is not pain. It is the silence where nothing shields us. And so we fill it with noise, with devices, with conversations that repeat themselves. Even worry, shapeless and restless, becomes a tool to distract us from emptiness. But what if that silence was not emptiness at all, but space? Space to see, to breathe, to remember. In all this constant filling up, we trade away something essential, the ability to hear ourselves. A mind crowded with noise and expectation leaves no room for clarity to ripen. Like a cluttered room where even light struggles to enter, a crowded mind is no place for peace. Stoicism does not shy away from this emptiness. It does not cover it with cheerfulness or distraction. Instead, it asks us to look directly into it. The aimlessness, the uncertainty, the quiet absence of anything to prove, and reminds us, this is not the end. This is the beginning. When we no longer need to perform in order to be loved, when the roles we carry slip from our shoulders like a coat at the end of the day, we touch something pure. At first, that space may feel unsettling, but soon we discover it is not nothingness. It is openness, not rejection, but return. This is why the emptiness spoken of in Stoicism is not dark or desperate. It is not the panic of loss, but the release of clinging. It is clean ground after a heavy rain, bare but fertile, quiet but alive. The Stoics saw this simplicity as wisdom. Only when we stop adding more can we finally see what we already hold. If you can sit with that emptiness without rushing to fill it, without demanding answers, you begin to enter real freedom. A space no one else can enter but you. In that space, the opinions of others lose their power to shake you. Failure loses its ability to define you. You stop living to prove and begin living as yourself, whole, unvarnished, complete without additions. And this image is not unique to Stoicism. In Buddhism, it is called shunyata, emptiness not as lack, but as boundlessness. In the Bible, be still and know that I am God. The sacred does not appear in chaos, it waits in stillness. In psychology, radical acceptance teaches us to embrace ourselves without fixing, without judgment, without pressure to be anything other than what we are. Across traditions, East and West, philosophy and spirituality, the message converges. Only in surrender can we receive what is truly profound. So the question is, are you willing to step into that space, not to escape life, but to see it more clearly from within? Can you stay with uncertainty as a gardener waits for a seed beneath cold soil? In a world that demands constant movement, perhaps the most courageous act is to be still, to listen, to simply be. Like a calm lake reflecting the sky, stillness opens a mirror within us. If you are ready, or even just standing at the threshold, pause there. Notice the space. Sometimes peace is not kept by gripping tighter, but by letting go. By creating space wide enough that small troubles no longer disturb you. And one day, in that space, you may look back and realize you were never missing anything. You had only been too restless to see. Number 4. The myth of control. Ask yourself, why the need to control everything? The answer is rarely found in simple proactivity. More often, it is rooted in fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of not being enough, fear that if we loosen our grip, life will collapse, not only around us but within us. We cling so tightly because we are afraid of falling apart. This is why we overreact to small things. A partner replies an hour late, and the mind spins stories of betrayal. An employee misses a step, and frustration erupts, not because efficiency collapsed, but because control feels threatened. Even children are sometimes overloaded with endless classes, not out of genuine need, but from a parent's fear that they might fall behind in life's invisible race. On the surface, these actions seem reasonable, but look closer and you'll often find fear at the root. The fear of losing the image we've worked so hard to maintain. Stoicism does not ask us to abandon responsibility or withdraw from life. It asks a sharper question. Are you acting from intention or from fear? If it's fear, then fear is what truly governs the moment. The more a person doubts their own worth, the more they attempt to bend the outside world into order, as if controlling the external could calm the storm within. This is why the Stoic teaching, let go of what is not in your control, is not simply about the world outside. It points to something subtler, our attachments to certainty, validation, and the illusion of being in command. Here lies the paradox. Those who are truly free often appear the quietest. They do not rush to react. They do not scramble to prove themselves. They do not demand to be understood. They are not clinging to anything. Instead, they seek to understand. And from that understanding comes clarity. Life does not need to bend to our will to hold meaning. It needs only to be seen as it is. As Epictetus wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." These words were not meant as comfort. They were a discipline, a way of life. When happiness is no longer defined by what is missing, we begin to see what is already present. The power to choose our response, the ability to stand our ground, the clarity to act from reason instead of panic. Control, in truth, is a kind of addiction. Like all addictions, it offers the illusion of strength while deepening dependence on things that cannot stay fixed. The more we grow accustomed to life going our way, the more fragile we become when it doesn't. But life was never designed to obey us. The Stoic does not try to control life. They train so that life does not control them. So the next time you feel irritation rising at someone's words, or anxiety when plans collapse, or impatience while waiting, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to hold on to? Does it even belong to me? This is not a lesson to skim and forget. It is a practice to return to each day, not to become numb, but but to stop drowning in things that were never yours. To begin with. If you have stayed with these words until now, it means something in you already knows it is time to stop, to look again, to change. And that is the beginning of a shift you cannot walk away from. Number 5. Action without attachment. A fish does not need to measure the depth of the ocean to swim. It does not need a map. It follows the current, sensing where the water carries it. And then it releases itself into the current. Graceful yet never fragile. Intentional yet never forceful. So why is it that human beings who call themselves intelligent live as though they must wrestle endlessly with a current they cannot command? We are taught that desire requires struggle, that every goal must be won through relentless effort, that life must be conquered to be lived. But how many times have you burned out from pushing too hard? How many times have you forced an outcome only to lose yourself in the process? Perhaps the problem is not that you need more effort. Perhaps it is that your effort is moving in the wrong direction. Our age celebrates the iron will, the refusal to bend, the conquering of every obstacle. Yet much of our suffering does not come from circumstances themselves, but from resisting them. We fight upstream, believing that struggle is proof of strength. But the more we resist, the more drained we become. Not because we are weak, but because we are misaligned with nature. Humans act as though the universe should bend to their commands. But the Stoics remind us, the universe bows to no one. It moves according to its own order. Wisdom belongs to those who learn to move with it, not against it. Marcus Aurelius, a man surrounded by wars, betrayal, and unrelenting pressure, discovered this in his own stillness. In Meditations he wrote, "Adapt yourself to the life you have been given." He did not urge us to fight fate, but to align with it, to act with clarity, while allowing life's current to carry what is beyond us. This is not surrender. It is courage. The courage to release the illusion that we know how everything should unfold. The courage to act with awareness, flexibility, and trust. Detached action, when understood deeply, is not indifference. It is the refusal to resist what is natural. It is walking in the rain without complaint. It is sending your best work into the world without anxiously demanding an outcome. It is loving with your whole heart, and if the other person chooses to leave, allowing them their path without bitterness. You may have succeeded before by forcing the tide. But if force is your only way, then what you call strength may simply be desperation. To act with a Stoic spirit is to give your best where action is yours, and then to let the rest move with a current greater than yourself. This is not weakness. It is cooperation with life. It is alignment. It is trust. You can begin in the smallest of moments. When a plan unravels, instead of scrambling to repair it, pause and ask, if this is happening within the logic of nature, where might it be leading me? When someone rejects you, instead of clinging or resenting, ask, am I trying to force myself upstream towards something no longer meant for me? Strangely, when you stop trying to control everything, life moves more smoothly. When you stop cursing the rain, you discover you can walk in it, or even dance. When you stop fearing failure, your actions carry a calm strength, no longer born of desperation, but of clarity. Detachment does not make you passive. It makes you perceptive. It sharpens your sense of timing, of rhythm, of the subtle patterns that shape life. In that state, you are no longer being dragged by events. You move with them, part of the same current. steady and composed. The inner citadel, reflection and mastery. There are mornings when you wake already tired, not because your body lacked rest, but because your mind never settled. Thoughts keep circling, an unfinished message, a sharp word from yesterday, a criticism that lingers. You are not living in the present. You are reacting. When the mind is left unguarded, it becomes a public square. Anyone can walk in. Every passing word echoes loudly, and then a single comment is enough to shake an entire day. Have you ever wondered, why am I so easily unsettled? Why do such small things take so much from me? The habit is to look outward for causes. My boss is unreasonable. People are careless. Life is overwhelming. So we patch the outside. We appease, we avoid, we defend. But even when the noise outside quiets, the restlessness remains, because the real work was never done. The gates of the inner world were never closed. Stoicism names the truth directly. You cannot control the world, but you can control yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not comfort. It is instruction. It calls you to stop forcing the world into order and instead train the mind that meets it. Begin simply. Sit in stillness. Watch the thoughts arrive, and as they do, question them. Where did you come from? Truth or fear? Are you bringing clarity or confusion? Do you steady me or stir me? Without this questioning, every thought seems valid. Every emotion seems binding. And from there you react, angry, anxious, defensive. What is lost is not only peace, but freedom itself, because the freedom to choose has always been yours. The moment you pause before reacting, the balance changes. A single exhale becomes the first act of mastery. Like a soldier on the field, you may not command the wind, the noise, or the enemy, but you can command your stance, your step, your hand on the blade. What about you? What weapon do you hold? Anger or awareness? Psychology calls this cognitive distancing, the ability to step back from your thoughts and see them for what they are. You are not your thoughts. This echoes the wisdom of the Stoics, and even centuries earlier, the book of Proverbs reminded us, "He that ruleth his spirit is better than he that taketh a city." The greatest victory has always been mastery of the self. Emotions are part of being human, but you need not be carried away by them. When anger rises, when fear presses in, when disappointment clouds your sight, you have a choice. You can pause. You can look directly at the feeling, name it, and ask, is this response truly needed, or is it only an old habit repeating itself? Here lies the paradox. You grow stronger not by controlling everything around you, but by refusing to be controlled within. Letting go is not surrender. It is victory at the deepest level, because you have found the one place your power cannot be taken from you, within your own mind. If you wonder where to begin, the answer is simple. The next time you feel the pull to react, stop. Take one breath. That single pause can change the entire direction of your life. Do not wait for the world to hand you peace. Begin shaping it in the only ground that is always yours, yourself. Number 7, you are enough. When you stop needing more, this is the final step in the journey, the place where all reflections converge into a single realization. Along the way, we have seen how the endless chase keeps us restless, how clarity does not come from control, but from letting go, how freedom belongs not to circumstances, but to a trained and steady mind. We have unlearned the myth of control, practiced action without attachment, and built the beginnings of an inner citadel strong enough to withstand storms. All of this leads here, to the recognition that you are enough when you no longer believe you must keep adding more. Most of us whisper to ourselves, just a little more, and then I'll be content. One more success, one more sign that I am enough. But each time we arrive, the horizon shifts. Something new replaces what we thought would complete us. The chase continues, not because we lack, but because we have never paused to ask, what is it I believe is missing, and why do I believe it? Stoicism does not demand that we abandon life or deny desire. It asks only that we bring one question to every pursuit. Why is your peace tied to things beyond your control? Money, recognition, love. None of these are wrong in themselves. But the moment your peace depends on them, you've already placed your strength outside yourself. The Stoics lived fully, but not under the grip of constant wanting. They understood that fullness doesn't come from adding more, but from loosening the endless pull of desire. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Those words were not a pleasant idea, but a truth carved from ruling an empire under solitude and pressure. The happiness that we keep postponing into the future is already here, in the way we think, in the way we see ourselves. Only when you stop trying to be enough in someone else's eyes can you realize you were never lacking what it takes to live a whole life. Pause with this question. If tomorrow looked exactly like today, no more, no less, could you rest in that reality? It's not an easy question. But if you can answer with even a quiet nod from within, then you've stepped beyond the invisible cage that has held you. When you no longer demand the world to fill you, you begin to radiate calm instead of chasing it. Love does not need pursuit. Opportunities do not need force. And peace, once imagined as distant, was always here, waiting for you to stop long enough to notice. Take a deep breath. Remember, when you release the search, life often carries you where you need to go. If you've reached this point, something in you may have shifted even slightly, a small opening in an old way of seeing, wide enough for light to come through. If these words helped you feel clearer, calmer, more grounded, then the reflection has already served its purpose. But don't let it stop here. Return to this awareness daily. Deepen it slowly. Let yourself come back to center, moment by moment. If you'd like to continue walking this path, living with presence, steadiness, and clarity, you're welcome to stay connected here. For now, there's nothing more you need to do. Simply sit for a while. Listen to yourself in stillness, in wholeness, because often the moments that seem the quietest are the ones where everything begins.